I found out my uncle's gift was a calculated trap. My name is Nathan Carter. I'm 39, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew my family inside out. We're from Des Moines, Iowa, small town vibe. Everyone knows everyone's business. Or at least I thought I did. It all started on a rainy Tuesday at 2:47 a.m. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my cousin Lee. Uncle Ray is in the hospital. Come now. Uncle Ray, my father's younger brother, had been my unofficial mentor since I was a teenager. He owned 3 small rental properties, drove a beat-up 92 Ford Bronco, and had a laugh that could fill a room. He'd never married, no kids of his own, and he always called me kiddo, even though I was pushing 40. When I got to Mercy, one medical centre, the air smelled like bleach and fear. Lee was pacing in the hallway, hair damp from the rain. He's asking for you, she said, eyes darting like she'd just done something wrong. Inside, Uncle Ray was hooked up to monitors, his skin the colour of old paper. He motioned for me to come closer. Nate, he rasped, I need you to promise me something. Don't trust anyone about what comes next. His grip tightened around my wrist. Not even your parents. Before I could ask what he meant, a nurse ushered me out for a test. That was the last conversation I had with him, and by morning, he was gone. 2 days later, at the reading of the will, I sat between my mom and dad in a cramped office that smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. The attorney, Mr. Kelman, adjusted his glasses and began reading. My parents got nothing but a framed family photo. My cousin Lee inherited his cabin at Clear Lake. And me? I got everything else. 3 rental properties. His savings $182,000. And a locked metal briefcase to be opened privately. The room went still. My mother's lips pressed into a hard line. My dad stared straight ahead. They looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. That night, my parents called me over for our family discussion. My father's tone was cold, like he was talking to a stranger. We think it's best you hand it all over, he said flatly. I blinked. Why would I do that? Mom's nails tapped the table. Because, Nathan, there are things you don't understand about Ray's money. What things? I asked. Dad's jaw clenched. Things that will ruin this family if they come out. And then Mom leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. It's not really Ray's money. Her words sat in the air like a bad smell. What do you mean it's not his money? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Dad looked at Mom like he wished she hadn't said anything. Then he exhaled. Some of that money was meant for someone else, someone in the family. I leaned back in my chair. You mean you? His eyes flickered. It was complicated. Ray and I had an agreement years ago. When our father died, he kept certain assets under his name for reasons, legal ones. I couldn't help but scoff. Let me guess, to keep the IRS off your back? Neither of them answered. Instead, Mom's hand slid across the table, palm up, like she was expecting me to just hand over the inheritance on the spot. Look, Dad said, his voice low but urgent, this is bigger than you think. If certain people find out where that money came from, you could be in legal trouble, the kind of trouble that ruins lives. I stared at him. So, you want me to give up everything because you two are skeletons in your closet? That's not how you should see it, Mom shot back. You're protecting the family. I stood up, grabbed my jacket. No, I'm protecting me, until I know the truth, and keeping what Ray left me. As I turned to leave, Dad said something that stopped me cold. If you open that briefcase, you'll regret it. 2 nights later, at 11:15 p.m., I sat at my kitchen table with the briefcase in front of me. It was heavy, dented, the metal cool under my fingertips. There was a small combination lock, 3 digits. Ray had once joked, if you ever need my ATM code, it's the month and year I bought the Bronco. I punched in 792. The lock clicked open. Inside, there were 3 neat stacks of documents, bound with rubber bands. On top of the first stack was a yellow sticky note in Ray's unmistakable handwriting. For Nathan, trust no one, start here. The papers were bank statements, but not from any bank I recognized. Offshore accounts transfers in the tens of thousands, and a name that made my stomach twist. My father's. At the very bottom of the stack was a photocopy of a deed to a house I'd never heard of, in Cedar Rapids, paid for in cash. But the owner's name wasn't Ray's or my dad's. It was my aunt's, the one we buried 12 years ago. I just sat there, staring at the deed like it was written in another language. My Aunt Valerie had died in 2013 in a sudden car accident on Highway 30. I was 24 then, fresh out of college, and the funeral had been closed casket. Everyone said it was too awful for an open one. But why was there a house in her name, bought 2 years after she was supposed to be dead? The questions started piling in my head so fast I could barely think. I grabbed my phone and called Lee. She picked up on the second ring. Did you know about a house in Cedar Rapids? I asked without even saying hello. There was a pause. What house? I could tell by the way her voice tightened that she was lying. Don't play dumb, Lee. A house in Aunt Valerie's name, purchased in 2015, cash. Darlings. Then, Nate, don't get involved in this, just don't. Too late, I said, and hung up. The next morning, I drove to Cedar Rapids. The address from the deed led me to a quiet street lined with maple trees, the kind of neighborhood where people wave at you from their porches. The house was a small two-story place with faded green shutters. I knocked. A woman in her mid-50s opened the door. She had dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that froze me in place. As I knew, it was Aunt Valerie. I stumbled back a step. You're dead. Her face went pale, but she didn't close the door. You shouldn't be here, Nathan. My mouth was dry. You've been alive this whole time? Why? Does Dad know? Does Ray? She cut me off, glancing nervously over my shoulder. Ray was the only one who knew where I was, and now he's gone. You need to leave before... A car slowed in front of the house. A black Lexus. The driver stayed us for a moment before pulling away. Valerie's eyes followed it until it turned the corner. Before they find out, she whispered. I didn't leave. I stepped inside. The house smelled faintly of lavender and something burning in a candle on the coffee table. On the walls were framed photos of Valerie and in some of them Ray. Smiling. Together. Years after we thought she was dead. I can't explain everything now, Valerie said, shutting the door. But your father is not the man you think he is, and if he knows you've seen me, you're in danger too. I was about to demand answers when a phone on the kitchen counter started ringing. Valerie glanced at the caller ID and went white. It's your father, she said. He knows you're here. My pulse kicked into overdrive. How could he possibly know? Valerie's hand trembled as she silenced the phone. Because he's been watching me for years. He probably has someone tailing you now. I didn't want to believe her, but that black Lexus flashed in my mind like a warning light. She grabbed my arm. Listen to me, Nathan. The money Ray left you, it's not just an inheritance, this leverage. He took it from your father's hidden account, so you'd have a bargaining chip when this all came out. I shook my head. Came out? Came what out? Valerie's eyes burned into mine. Your father runs an offshore laundering operation. The properties, the accounts, even the house you're standing in, it's all tied to it. And when I found out, I threatened to go to the police. That's why you disappeared, I said slowly. She nodded. Ray helped me fake my death. We staged the accident, got me out with cash, and he swore he'd protect me, but now he's gone. I felt the room tilt. My father wasn't just keeping a family secret, he was hiding a criminal empire. And if Valerie was telling the truth, Ray's inheritance had just made me the next target. Before I could ask anything else, Valerie pulled a worn leather envelope from her drawer and shoved it into my hands. Take this, it's proof. Bank trails, shell companies, everything. Keep it safe and don't tell anyone you have it. I opened my mouth to respond, and that's when the front window shattered. The sound was deafening. Glass sprayed across the room as a brick crashed onto the carpet, wrapped in black duct tape. Valerie yanked me down behind the couch. They're here, she hissed. My ears were ringing, my heart thundering. I peered over the couch just in time to see headlights flood the living room. The black Lexus had returned, idling in the driveway. Then a man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a baseball cap low over his face. He bent down, picked something from his pocket, and slid it under the windshield wiper. When the Lexus pulled away, I crept to the window and grabbed the paper. It was a printed photo of me, taken that morning as I left my apartment. On the back, in thick red marker, were 3 words. Give Viti back. I shoved the photo into my jacket pocket, my hands clammy. Valerie locked the door, her breathing quick and shallow. They know you have Ray's briefcase, she said. Once they're certain, they won't stop. I tried to sound calm, but my voice betrayed me. Then I'll go to the police. Her laugh was short, bitter. And tell them what? That your father, a respected businessman in Des Moines, is laundering money through shell companies without proof they can take to court. You'll just tip him off, and then we're both dead. I glanced at the leather envelope she'd given me. This is proof. It's a start, she said, but you'll need the rest. Ray hid some of it, in case she trailed off, her eyes darkening. In case something happened to him. By the time I left Valerie's house, it was 1:12 a.m. The streets were empty, my car the only sound in the quiet neighborhood. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting the Lexus to appear again. When I got home, my phone lit up with 3 missed calls from Dad and 1 from Mom. I ignored them. But there was also a voicemail from Lee. Nate, it's me, please. Just stop digging. It's not worth it. You're not going to like what you find. Her voice cracked on the last word. The next morning, I went through Ray's briefcase again. Hidden beneath the second stack of documents was a folded sheet of notebook paper. In Ray's blocky handwriting, it read, If you're reading this, I'm gone. Start with the cabin. Floorboard under the desk. R. The cabin. The one Lee had inherited. At 10:34 a.m., I was parked outside it, staring at the peeling blue paint and overgrown yard. Lee's car wasn't there, so I let myself in with the spare key Ray had once shown me. Inside, dust motes floated in sunlight streaming through half-drawn blinds. The air smelled of cedar and something faintly metallic. I found the desk in the corner of the living room, old oak with scratches along the edge where Ray used to drum his fingers. I pried at the floorboard beneath it and reached inside. My hand brushed against something cold. It was a small black USB drive taped to the underside. I slipped it into my pocket just as I heard tires crunching on the gravel outside. A car door slammed. Then Lee's voice, sharp and panicked. "Nate, are you in there?" My pulse spiked. I shoved the floorboard back into place and stepped away from the desk just as Lee appeared in the doorway. Her hair was pulled back, but a few strands stuck to her forehead. She looked like she'd been driving fast. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "Ray left me something," I said, keeping my voice level. "Under the floorboard." Her eyes narrowed. "You went through his things?" I almost laughed. "Don't act shocked. You think I don't know you've been hiding stuff too?" She crossed her arms, blocking the exit. "You have no idea what you're getting into. That USB, it's not just evidence, Nate. That's insurance. People will kill for it." "Like Dad?" I asked. Her expression faltered. "You don't understand. He didn't want you involved. Ray forced his hand when he left you the properties and the cash. He thought you'd be smart enough to walk away." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Then tell me why Valerie is still alive." Lee froze, her face draining of color. "You saw her?" "Yesterday," I said. "She told me everything." Lee's jaw tightened. "Then you already know too much. You have to get rid of that drive." I didn't. By 8:00 p.m. that night, I was sitting at my apartment desk, the USB plugged into my laptop. The drive contained dozens of scanned documents, bank transfers, shell company registrations, property deeds. And not just in Iowa. Chicago, St. Louis, Denver. And then I found the video files. The first one was grainy, dated March 2015. It showed a woman, Valerie, in a dimly lit room, speaking into the camera. "If you're seeing this, something's gone wrong. Nathan, your father isn't who you think he is." Before she could finish, the video cut out. The next file was from a week later. It showed my father, sitting at a table with two men I didn't recognize, stacks of cash between them. One of the men said, "Once the deed's in her name, she'll disappear. That's the only way to shut her up." My stomach turned. They'd been planning Valerie's death in cold detail. I was still staring at the frozen frame of my father's face when my apartment buzzed rang. It was 9:42 p.m. I checked the monitor. It was Dad. And he wasn't alone. Through the grainy black and white feed, I saw him standing in the hallway with two men in dark jackets. They weren't smiling. I yanked the USB from my laptop, shoved it into my pocket, and killed the lights. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Nathan!" Dad's voice boomed through the buzzer, too calm to be real. "We need to talk. Open up." I didn't move. One of the men stepped closer to the door and knocked, not polite, but hard enough to rattle the frame. "You don't want this to get messy," he said. I backed toward the kitchen, trying to figure out if the fire escape was an option. But then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against all logic, I answered. It was Valerie. "Head out now," she hissed. "They won't leave without what you have. Go to the Cedar Rapids bus station at Locker 14. I left something there for you." The line went dead. I slipped out through the fire escape, climbed down 3 stories, and bolted into the alley. The August air was thick, my shirt clinging to my back. I could still hear the pounding on my apartment door 2 blocks away. By midnight, I was in Cedar Rapids, standing in front of Locker 14. Inside was a small padded envelope. I tore it open to find a prepaid phone and a single sheet of paper with an address in Chicago. Scrolled at the bottom, FBI asked for Agent Dyer. The next day, I walked into the Chicago field office, every nerve in my body on edge. I told them I had evidence of interstate money laundering and conspiracy to commit murder. They took the USB. They took the envelope Valerie had given me. And they really listened as I told them everything. 2 weeks later, my father was arrested in a sting operation. The news showed him being led away in handcuffs, face grim, while my mother screamed at the cameras that it was all a misunderstanding. Lee skipped town. Valerie was placed in protective custody. As for me, I kept the properties Ray left me, but sold them one by one. Every time I signed a sale contract, I thought of him, of how he'd known this would all fall apart, and how he made sure I had a way to survive it. One night, months later, the prepaid phone from the locker buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "You did the right thing, kiddo." I just sat there, staring at the screen, my throat tight. Because Ray was dead, wasn't he?